everyone! Welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I'm going to go over everything I read in September. So I have a total of 5 books I'm going to talk about. I listened to one of them on audio and then the 4 other I read. But before I get started on talking about it, I always like to say what I'm drinking. So today I made myself a cookie dough iced coffee. I started using the Chobani creamers and it is so good. It tastes like a milkshake, like a chocolate milkshake. I just want to say I love my little cup my sister got me from Anthropology. The little mushrooms are so cute. I am obsessed with it. But yeah, so I'll get started on the first book that I read. So the first book I read on my Kindle. It was actually an ARC. I got it approved for it on NetGalley. I've mentioned NetGalley before, but if you ever want to read any like advanced readers copies, you could always log on to the website and you could request copies. Sometimes they approve you, sometimes they don't, but it gives you a chance to read early releases. So it's actually really cool. I found a lot of good books through it. So this one as well. So the Book of George, it's by Kate Greathead. This book was actually very interesting to me. It's more of like a character study on George. There's not really a plot to it, but he is someone that reminded me so much of, if anyone has read Good Material by Dolly Alderton, he honestly was just like Andy in that book. Like the characters were so similar. So basically like George, he's a frustrating character. He is how a lot of people, when I was reading reviews, I also agree, he was like kind of like a man-child. You follow him through his like adolescent years all the way up until his like mid-30s around there. So every couple of chapters would be like a age gap in between. So like when he's in middle school, high school, college, and then adult life. So we just see how he is experiencing his life with his parents divorcing, just relationships and everything like that. With George, we notice he is a very flawed character. He is a bit lazy, he's very cynical, self-absorbed really. He never like just thinks of others. Like people do a lot for him and he just kind of accepts it and never really is grateful for the things that is done for him. He never goes out of his way to do anything for others, and we especially see that when he's in a relationship with his girlfriend's name is Jenny, and they're very like, it's very tumultuous, it's very on and off. You know, we get so frustrated because she does so much for him and she tries to better him, but he just constantly just drops the ball. In the same way though, we do find him endearing. He is very funny and there were a lot of funny moments throughout the book that like you would find yourself laughing at. It was hard because his family members would call him out on just being unbearable at times and instead of him getting defensive, he was ashamed of his behavior. He would be like, you know, you're right, I'm sorry, and kind of accept it, and he'll try to like change for like a second and then he'll just fall through the cracks and like keep acting the way he does. I think one of the scenes that really like I always think about it because I thought it was like so ridiculous. His mother was moving out of his childhood home. She had called him to come and, you know, empty his room out, anything he didn't want to keep, to throw out, and then she would bring it to her new apartment. Oh my goodness, like every time I think about this, he would get distracted easily and he's just like really lazy, and he found a Game Boy. Instead of, you know, cleaning up the room, packing things up, he's like playing the Game Boy and he's like, well, I have to finish the levels, I have to win this game and then I'll pack up. And he ended up spending the whole weekend there trying to like complete the levels, to the point that his mom, she called his girlfriend to come and help like pack up, and his girlfriend would try to like push him to help like pack up, and she's asking, okay, do you want to keep this, do you want to keep that, and he'll be like, yeah, and just kind of like, I promise once I'm done with this Game Boy game, like I promise I'll clean. And like he was just so focused on that and acted like that was the most important part of the whole situation that they were there in. And like when he won the game, he was just kind of like, yeah, like I don't know, I was just like, wow. I felt for Jenny, his girlfriend, a lot, and it reminded me exactly like in Good Material. I think her name was Jenny in that too. You just feel for them, you know, you feel for the girlfriends in it because they always feel like they could change the guy, and it's just kind of like you have to, you know, he's kind of a a lost cause. You kind of have to just let him be. But yeah, it was a good book. It comes out October 4th. I think I'm posting this on October 4th, so if it's out by now, I think you should check it out. It was a good read. It was interesting. It was very funny. It was really funny. I gave it 4 stars. So the next book I'm going to talk about is I Hope This Finds You Well, and that is by Natalie Sue. So I listened to this on audio. If some of you don't know, on Spotify you can listen to audiobooks. It gives you like 15 hours monthly. So I do try to utilize it as much as I can, and I like to listen to it when I'm cleaning and driving. It makes the time go faster. First of all, I just want to say this cover is so cute. Like the pinks and the reds, I love it. And like how she's on the floor, she's just so defeated. That definitely is what caught my attention, and I'm guilty of judging a book by its cover. So if it has a good cover, I am there. I will be like buying it, reading it. I just love like cutie covers like that, and this one is just so satisfying to look at. I Hope This Finds You Well follows Jolene, and she works in a corporate office, and she is basically like miserable. She hates her job there. She's a big pessimist. She's just very negative. She gets called into HR because she gets caught sending like passive aggressive emails to her coworkers. But the thing is that what she was doing is like, if she had a coworker and she didn't like them and she was replying to an email, she'll write something like mean underneath, but then change the color of the font to white so they can't see it, but she gets kind of like a high of like sending something so mean to them and just letting and like venting out her frustration, but they can't see it. But the one time that she does do it, she forgets to change the color. So the coworker sees it, reports it to HR, and then she gets in trouble for it. Because of this, they have to like put her in like this little program where like, you know, like she has to learn like working in about like being nice in the workplace and just being professional. Through this, they have to like monitor her account, but something messes up and she's able to see everyone in the office's emails, like everything that's being sent everywhere. She has like full access to everything. So through this, she's seeing like what her coworkers are saying about her. She realizes not everyone likes her in the workplace, and she sees a lot of things like people are going to be laying off, all of that. She tries to use this like access to her advantage, kind of try to manipulate her way into like getting people to like her. She also tries to like find a way where she won't get laid off. It was interesting. I didn't really like her character. She was just mean and like snarky, and like I understand like working in the office, sometimes, you know, it can be a little draining. I'm a nurse, and for the most part I've worked in hospitals, so I didn't really know about like working in an office and that kind of life until my most recent job. It changed into a outpatient clinical setting. So I did work in an office, and it was such a change for me, and I get how it could be repetitive and monotonous at times. But the way she was acting in this book, I was just like, okay, like if you don't like this job, just leave. And I mean, she stated how she couldn't leave because, you know, she can't afford, you know, the whole thing about it. But yeah, I did like it though, in the sense that she was Middle Eastern, so we had that kind of representation. We got to see her culture, her coworkers, some of them had different cultures as well. I don't know, I just didn't really like her, and she was like so shocked when she realized that her coworkers didn't like her as well, but she never really made an effort to befriend them or be nice or polite. I like that she was able to see that in the end, that, you know, her behaviors, she was closed off and standoffish as well. So I did like that aspect of it, but yeah, she was just, I don't know, she wasn't the best. Listening to it on audio, I do recommend though. The narrator, she did a great job, and she put so much inflection into the word. It felt very absorbed into the content, and I like kept wanting to listen to it. I gave this one 3 stars. It was good, you know, it was interesting. I did want to see how everything panned out. It was a little hard just because like I wasn't rooting for her. Honestly, I was like, I hope she gets in trouble because I was just like, she's kind of like not likable. Not likable. I'm sorry. The next book I read on my Kindle, and that's Happy Medium by Sarah Adler. I like this book. I think it's perfect for the spooky season that we are in. With Happy Medium, we follow Gretchen. She's basically a con artist, but she calls herself like a BS artist because she's not as good as a con artist, but she does okay. She tries to justify what she does for her job is to benefit others. It's not really to take advantage. She pretends to be a medium, and that's how she makes her business. She works for a lot of people in the community that are well off, wealthy women. You know, if they had someone that passed away in their life, she'll like deep dive into the person's account. For example, one of the women, her daughter passed away young, and the girl, she had, you know, a big following on social media, she had podcasts, everything. What Gretchen would do would just kind of do a deep dive, listen to everything, and almost to the point that she knew a lot about her, so she would just try to, like, through every session, bring things up, and the woman would be like, wow, how do you know this, you know? So she definitely was taking advantage, but in a sense she was trying to comfort the woman. I mean, like, in a sense it's okay because she would try to reassure the woman, and before the woman was closed off, but after she felt like, okay, her daughter is like in a better place or whatever, she felt more inclined to like go out again, socialize with her friends, meet new people, you know. So she tries to act like, you know, I don't really take advantage of these people. With the wealthy woman, she really loves Gretchen, and she's like her most loyal customer, and she proposes a job for Gretchen. She says that she has a friend who he owns a farm and he's trying to sell the farm, but he's having trouble selling it because weird things are happening around the farm. Every time a real estate agent comes with people interested in the farm, weird spooky things are happening, so she thinks it's haunted. So she asks Gretchen, oh, can I hire you to do an exorcism on the farm? She offers Gretchen a lot of money to do it, so Gretchen's kind of like, sure, why not, you know? Gretchen goes to the farm and she meets Charlie, who's like this hot young farmer. You know, it's like the grumpy sunshine trope. He does not believe in any of the like medium psychic things, and he thinks she's like a con artist right away. He's like, I don't believe you, you're trying to scam the old women that referred Gretchen, and he's very mean to her in the beginning. He ends up trying to convince him to stay, and she's like, you know, I'll help you, I'll try and figure out what's going on. The funny thing and like the cute thing of it is, even though she's pretending to be a medium, she does run into a ghost on the farm, and his name is Everett. Honestly, Everett is probably my favorite character in this whole book. He was very funny. He's like from the early 1920s, and he basically explains to Gretchen that there's this curse where Charlie can't leave the farm. It's like in the bloodline or whatever, so she has to try and convince Charlie to stay, not sell the farm. It's a whole thing. This is one of those rom-coms that's really like a fluffy read. It's very easy to read. It's really funny. I really enjoyed the parts with Everett. I do recommend it, especially for the spooky season. It's not like it's scary or anything, it's very lighthearted. I gave it 3 stars. So afterwards, I read Book of Night by Holly Black. This author, I adore her writing. She wrote the Cruel Prince series, and it is one of my all-time favorite series that I've read. I honestly enjoy most of the books she writes. She has a couple other series that are like YA, but this is her first, I think it's her first adult novel, so it's definitely a lot darker than her other books. It's more of a darker fantasy, but it was actually very interesting. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. The world building, I found it a little confusing in the beginning, but if you just keep going and give it a shot, it does get very good. And I saw that she's coming out with the second book. I'm not sure if it's a duology or a trilogy, but I think she's coming out with the second book next year. So I definitely am going to read it. So for this book, I'm just gonna read the synopsis just because it's a little hard to describe. Charlie Haw has never found a lock she couldn't pick, a book she couldn't steal, or a bad decision she wouldn't make. She spent half her life working for Glomus, magicians who manipulate shadows to peer into locked rooms, strangle people in their beds, or worse. Glomus guard their secrets greedily, creating an underground economy of grimoires, and to rob their fellow magicians, they need Charlie Haw. Now she's trying to distance herself from past mistakes, but bartending at a local dive, she's still entirely too close to the corrupt underbelly of the Berkshires. Not to mention that her sister Posey is desperate for magic, and that Charlie's shadowless and possibly soulless boyfriend Vince has been hiding things from her. When a terrible figure from her past returns, Charlie descends into a maelstrom of murder and lies. Determined to survive, she's up against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, Glomus, and the people she loves best in the world, all trying to steal a secret that will give them a vast and terrible power. even reading the synopsis, you're kind of like, what is this book about? From my understanding, you know, there's magic in this world, but you know how everyone has a shadow. I guess you can get power if you are able to manipulate your shadow. Best way I could think of it is if you've read Iron Flame, and with Xander, how he had like a power where his like shadows he could send out, and the shadows could like unlock doors or like touch people or hurt them. That's kind of what you can do in this book. Yeah. So the more that you can manipulate your shadow, the stronger you are, because you could use your shadow to kill people. That's pretty much the premise of it. A lot happens in this. It's a bit violent. It is dark. There's a lot of adult themes in this. It's heavy. It's a heavy book. But I do, you know, I was very interested throughout the whole thing. I do recommend it if you're interested in like fantasy or anything like that. I think it's a good read. Towards the end, it really had me like at the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? And a lot was uncovered. There was a bit of like a plot twist that I didn't see coming. So yeah, I do recommend it. I give it 4 stars. Last but not least, I read Green Dot by Madeline Gray, and this is on Kindle Unlimited currently, so if you have it, I definitely say check it out because this was a good read. I actually really enjoyed it. So basically the premise of this is that Hera, she's 24 years old, she starts working at a company. She meets Arthur, who's a journalist there, and she's a comment moderator. She starts to form a friendship with Arthur. She starts to have feelings for him. They end up hanging out a lot. One thing leads to another, and they're in a sort of relationship. He feels to let her know that he is fully married with a wife. It makes things a lot more complicated. This is where Hera becomes such a frustrating character to me because she's torn. You can see how delusional she becomes throughout the book because she is so in love with him and almost obsessed, infatuated with him, and she thinks that she can make him leave his wife for her. As more and more time progresses, she keeps trying to convince him, like, you have to leave your wife because this is real, what we have is real. And he, you know, feeds into her delusions. He's like, yes, I love you so much, I will, like, when the time is right, I will tell her. It's just so frustrating. Like, she is so head over heels for him, and when they're together, she's so happy and acts like everything's so great, and it's just made me so angry because I was like not rooting for her. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is awful. And it was just so annoying when she would be with him because that's just awful. It's just awful. I hate cheating tropes, anything like that. I saw a lot of people did enjoy this book because just of like the whirlwind of emotions that it takes you. In the end, we do just find a lot, and thankfully, like, throughout the book though, at least it wasn't like she didn't think anything was wrong the whole time. Like, she did know it was wrong what she was doing, and I did appreciate that her friends as well told her like what she's doing is wrong, so they weren't feeding into it. They were kind of like to her, okay, then what? Like, what do you expect to get out of this? You know, they were real with her, and I appreciated that because I can't stand I can't stand that kind of like behavior. It was really good. It was a really good book. I like the ending a lot, and I do recommend it if you just want to like read a book that like really just makes your emotions go up and down fully and just takes you for a ride. I read this book in like 2 days because it was just so good, so interesting, and like honestly just so funny. Like, Hera, her personality was really, really funny. She's Australian in the book, and I always say this, but I love like British or Australian humor. I just think they are so quick-witted, and just like their sense of humor is just on a different level, so I always enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. Alright, so that's everything I read in September. I do think I read pretty good books. I didn't find any 5-star reads this month, so hopefully this next month in October I find a couple 5-star reads that I would just be obsessing over. I have a big TBR for this fall season, and I keep saying I'll make a video, so I hope to come out with a video soon, just kind of talking about a couple of them, because it would be too long if I talk about every book on my fall TBR. But I'm just really excited to get to it, to read a lot of thrillers, cozy fantasies, mysteries, horror, but I'll still throw in romance in there as well because I do love my romance. But thank you so much for stopping by. I hope to see you again in the comments. If you want, let me know what you're most excited to read for the fall, or if there's anything you recommend or want to see me read and talk about and review. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon.